Hi everyone, I'm Andrew Boyardi and I lead the DevOps evangelism team at Atlassian. Now, I'm not afraid to admit I love a good meeting. I love connecting with people and sparring on new ideas or solving a problem. But the thing is, you don't need meetings to deliver secure software. But somehow meetings have become the default for governing quality at many organizations. So today I'm going to show you how you can deliver secure quality software without meetings. So let's start with the goal. Most software organizations have the goal of delivering high quality software fast. Now, this is actually a very balanced statement. We want to deliver software at speed that's right for the organization, and we want that software to be reliable, performant, and secure. It's a challenge though, because quality and speed are typically competing priorities. If we over-index on speed, it's likely that we're going to be sacrificing some quality. And if we swing the other way, we might end up with really high quality software that takes too long to deliver. So adding to that challenge are competing priorities within an organization. For example, security teams obviously are very focused on ensuring quality, secure software is delivered to production. They don't want to slow software teams down, but their primary focus is on ensuring standards are met and everything is safe and secure when it gets to production. Software teams are focused on delivering new features for customers and have the ongoing pressure of being first to market and staying ahead of the competition. Software teams obviously still want to make sure that their software performs well and is secure. Nobody wants to have an incident, but generally they are more willing to take risks than their security colleagues. Now, whilst all teams ladder up to the same goal, they have competing priorities which become the foundation for how we end up in death by 1,000 unnecessary meetings. So let's take a look at how organizations end up governing quality through meetings. First, we start with a single software delivery team who are looking to deliver software to production. Now, the happy part is that the team understands security standards and meets these as a part of their normal delivery cycle. In reality, though, companies are constantly responding to cyber threats, and so security requirements could arise at any time. Security requirements aren't the only requirements software teams need to keep up with. Most organizations have some sort of application readiness criteria that teams need to comply with. Now, again, these requirements might change at any time during a particular team's delivery cycle. And with the adoption of cloud, organizations are setting up governance controls to control financial liabilities and ensure that resources are being used optimally. From time to time, architectural standards might change, and this is something else that the software teams need to keep up with. Regulatory compliance is evolving, with new requirements constantly being released. So if anyone is developing anything with AI, which is probably everybody, they're keeping a close eye on what regulators are saying around the responsible use of AI. So software teams have a struggle. They need to somehow keep up to date with all of these constantly changing requirements. And from time to time, they might miss something. Now, missing a requirement from any one of these could be detrimental to an organization. And with so many requirements to track and all this pressure to be first to market, it's understandable that requirements might be missed. But each organization has a responsibility to do what they can to ensure their quality obligations are met. So they introduce mechanisms to check in on quality. And before you know it, everyone's forced into lots of unnecessary meetings to make sure that quality software is being delivered. Now, if you're an engineer, you think you already have the answer with automated checks in pipelines. Now, don't get into solution mode yet. We'll get to the solution in a second. But first, let's take a closer look at what actually happens in these meetings. So for every governance meeting, a delivery team needs to prepare evidence that they've complied with whatever standard it is that is being checked in on. They need to submit this evidence in a tool that they don't regularly work in. So there's some additional cognitive load that comes with that. They need to wait until the meeting is scheduled. And then sometimes there's a mandatory lead time for governance teams so that they can check in on everyone's work and have a look at all the evidence that was submitted. Then they attend the meeting and they share evidence. And this is usually assessed by someone who hasn't delivered software before. And then finally, they either get approval or they need to rework their solution and reschedule the date that they had for going live. So if we take a look back at our goal, governance meetings don't enable high quality because they are just a checking mechanism, and a bad one at that. They don't do anything to help teams understand what they actually need to do and to get it right on the first go. And they definitely don't empower teams to deliver software at speed. They're a bottleneck that introduce unnecessary wait time in the software delivery process. Now, the bad news about governance meetings doesn't end there. Engineers know that these meetings don't improve quality outcomes, and therefore it's a waste of their time. Now, this has a huge impact on developer experience and productivity. These meetings take delivery teams out of their flow and disrupt focus away from more important tasks. Now, given meetings don't materially improve quality outcomes, time spent preparing and attending these meetings is also wasted time. And finally, unnecessary meetings result in reduced job satisfaction and employee engagement for any type of worker, especially for software teams. Okay, so I think we all agree that unnecessary meetings are bad. So how do we move to a world where we can deliver high quality software at speed when delivery teams and governance teams can achieve their respective goals? So this is a point where all the engineers think that I'm going to say that embedding all the checks into CI/CD pipelines is the answer. And that would probably make sense given I'm the head of DevOps evangelism at Atlassian. And yes, automating checks is a fantastic solution. You should do that. But organizations are still having governance meetings, and there are many possible reasons why this is still happening. Sometimes there's a cultural resistance and a lack of comfort with automation, and they still want humans to be checking things off. There might be some complex requirements that can't be fully automated yet. And some companies are on that journey and they're still working towards automating some of these compliance checks. Whatever the reason, there's still a better answer than governance meetings. So there's a concept that I call governance on demand. Here's how it works. Teams are provided a set of scorecards for each software component they own. At Atlassian, we embed these scorecards into our developer platform called Compass. Each scorecard clearly outlines the organization's expectations. For example, this Compass security scorecard shows that the organization expects no open critical vulnerabilities and no more than one high open vulnerability. Now, this particular scorecard relies on an integration between Sneak and the Atlassian developer platform Compass. Now, this integration means that the scorecard is dynamic and is always showing the latest information without anyone needing to update it. So using a dynamic scorecard means performance against company standards can be checked on demand. Delivery teams can track their performance against expectations at all times and use this as an input to their prioritization ceremonies. Having scorecards also has a benefit for governance teams. So instead of waiting for a meeting to let delivery teams know that there's a requirement they might have missed, requirements can be distributed using scorecards. Now, this helps delivery teams plan for new requirements, giving them a better chance at meeting those requirements without any rework. So this is great for software delivery teams, but how do governance teams ensure quality expectations are met? Now, rather than needing to check on every team, they can focus on teams that actually need their help. So using scorecards, it's easy to identify which teams are at risk of not meeting expectations. The relevant team, in this case, the cyber team, might reach out and offer assistance to the delivery team. And this approach completely changes the dynamic between delivery teams and governance teams. Governance teams can go from being the protectors of production to the enablers of quality. Now, governance on demand is great for everyone. For software teams, it means they don't need to waste time looking for the latest standards. The scorecards are in the developer platform where they work every day. Now, we all know that standards and requirements are going to change from time to time. We can't avoid that. The dynamic scorecards I showed from Compass mean teams can immediately see the new requirement and can plan to meet these. It helps balance prioritization between new features and meeting organizational standards and expectations. For governance teams, they can easily distribute requirements. So that means that they don't need to rely on email or setting up meetings to talk about new requirements and how to meet these, or being the bearer of bad news and telling teams they can't go live at the end of their cycle. They can also access compliance information on demand. So this is particularly helpful during an audit. You don't need to go searching for evidence or call a meeting to tell people to help you gather the information that you're looking for. And it also shifts the focus away from being protectors of production to the enablers of quality. And the best part about governance on demand is there are no more meetings, which is great for everybody. Now, if you're thinking of getting started with governance on demand, there are a few principles required for success. The first one is transparency. The whole model falls over if either software teams or governance teams aren't completely transparent. So for governance teams, this means that they need to be transparent about all the requirements they have and help them be clearly understood. Delivery teams have a responsibility to not try and manipulate tools so that everything looks green. If there's one thing I know about engineers, it's that they will engineer their way around a problem. And this principle of transparency is really important for this to work. The second one is around good documentation. Now, governance teams need to make sure that all guidelines for compliance are clearly documented. And this means that anyone reading the guideline will know exactly what's expected and how to achieve the expected outcome. It also needs to be accessible, which means there should be no locked documents and people can easily find these documents. And finally, the documentation needs to be up to date. So it's no good having all this accessible documentation if it doesn't reflect the latest requirements. The final and perhaps the most difficult principle is it requires a shift in mindset. Now, this is especially hard for governance teams. They need to go from being the protectors of production to the enablers of quality. And a lot of time they're incentivized to make sure there's things like no security incidents and or no incidents at all. So this is a bit of a hard mindset change for governance teams because they need to start to trust software teams a little bit more. Now, organizations have a single goal: deliver high quality software to production. Both software teams and governance teams need to work together towards that goal for company success. So if you're keen to try the scorecard that I displayed in this session today, it was built in Compass, the Atlassian developer platform, and it has an integration with the available Sneak app. Now, governance on demand isn't for everyone. If you like having unnecessary meetings, then this is probably not something for you. But if you do want less meetings and you are looking to deliver high quality software fast, then I recommend using scorecards to get started with governance on demand. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Andrew Boyardi, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn.